Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, I'm going to talk about a very cool Pokemon who almost keeps getting love, but this time might actually be getting some love. We are talking about Beedrill. Now, Beedrill often has interesting cards. Take, for instance, the most recent Beedrill we have been given from the Primal Clash expansion, and this Beedrill had a fun little attack, Allergic Shock. During your next turn, if the defending Pokemon is damaged by an attack, it is knocked out. Sounds like a really, really good attack, but in reality, your opponent is just going to play a card like Switch, or maybe even just Retreat, and then they're not going to be in the active to be damaged by an attack. And as soon as they're not in the active, that resets anyway, any effects go away. Like I said, almost keeps getting love, but doesn't actually get the love. That might be about to change. So today we're going to be talking about the new Beedrill, and we're going to be talking about the new Beedrill and Mega Beedrill EX. Now we're going to start with a Mega Beedrill EX. It is coming in the Mega Beedrill EX Premium Collection. And you're going to be getting a whole bunch of stuff. You're going to be getting an awesome pin badge of Mega Beedrill, who, just for the record, might be the best Mega Pokemon, at least in my humble opinion. And a coin and some booster packs. But most importantly, promos of Beedrill and Mega Beedrill. And these are going to be the only place to get Beedrill and Mega Beedrill cards, as well as the Spirit Link. So, if we have a look at Beedrill EX, 1 colourless energy, discard up to 2 Pokemon tools from your opponent's Pokemon. I mean, look, it's fine. It's not the worst attack ever. There is some use for it, especially with Xerosic and Startling Megaphone rotating out. You need a way to get rid of tools. But the Rattata that's coming in the new set Evolutions is going to allow you to get rid of a tool attached to your opponent's active. I like that, and that's as an ability, not an attack. I don't think you'll ever use Double Scrap. Pin Missile, 2 energy, 1 grass, 1 colourless. Flip 4 coins, 40 damage times the number of heads. Not a fan, just don't like it very much at all. Sorry. Mega Beedrill, on the other hand, now that's interesting. 200 HP is low for a Mega, but hey ho, what can you do? And it's got free retreat, which is always a bonus. And for 2 grass energy, 40 damage. Not particularly great. Discard all energy attached to Mega Beedrill. Still not loving it. But then you get automatic paralysis and poison. And it's 4 damage counters instead of 1 for poison. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are rolling. Now, let's say your opponent's playing something like a Magearna. To turn off the poison, then it's just 40 damage. That's really bad. But as long as your opponent isn't playing anything that stops the poison, you're essentially doing 80 damage. That's fine. It's not amazing. For 2 energy, it's okay. 2 energy discarding it, it's not good. But the automatic paralysis means that they have to play something like a switch to get rid of it. Otherwise, they are stuck in the active. You can't retreat when you're paralyzed. And then the next turn, you're basically KOing anything, because you start off doing 40 damage, and then the poison kicks in, goes up to 80, and then after their turn, poison kicks in again to go up to 120, and then you hit them for 40, going up to 160, with the poison goes up to 200. This builds up very, very quickly. This isn't a one-hit KO, this is a 2-hit KO with enough disruption that you should be able to get the second hit. Although you do have to discard both the energy. More on that in a moment. Now, automatic paralysis has always been good. Excelgor saw play because of automatic paralysis. Vanillux with its double freeze. Okay, that wasn't automatic paralysis. It was a 3/4 chance, and then you played the Victini, so if you didn't hit that chance, then you would just reflip. So it was almost guaranteed. So the point is that automatic paralysis is very, very good, and it always sees play. So in theory, this Beedrill should. Having said that, Mega Venusaur does automatic paralysis, and that never saw play. Although, to be fair, there will be in a new evolution set, but up till now we've never had a Venusaur Spirit Link, so when you Mega Evolve you have to end your turn. As a side note, this set is coming with a Beedrill Spirit Link. Life is good. Now, this seems very, very good, But there is one major problem with that, and that is 2 energy and you have to discard them. Now there are options. As Beedrill is a Mega, you can use Mega Turbo to attach a basic energy from your discard to Beedrill. There we go. Now you have got that second energy attachment. You can use Mega Turbo as long as it's Beedrill EX and not the Mega. Basic only. Look at the top 6 cards of your deck. If one of them's a basic energy, attach it to one of your benched basic Pokemon. So you could use a combination of Max Elixir and Mega Turbo to get rolling here. The big problem, of course, is that Automatic Paralysis has always been played with Vileplume, some kind of trainer lock. So Excelgor was played with the Undaunted Vileplume or with Trevenant, and Vanillux was played with the Undaunted Vileplume. Now, we do have an essential reprint of that. We have our own Vileplume that blocks item cards for both players, which means you can play Vileplume to stop your opponent using stuff like Switch to get out of paralysis, but then you can't use stuff like Mega Turbo and Max Elixir to get the energy on board fast enough. And that's a little bit of a problem. I love Mega Beedrill's attack. It's really good. The only problem here is that the 2 energy and discarding. I mean, to go to our maths from earlier, sometimes you'll get very lucky. Let's say, for argument's sake, you are up against, I don't know, let's say Mega Rayquaza. They've got 220 hit points. So you do 40 damage, and then at the end of your turn it goes to 80 with poison. They are paralyzed, so then it goes to 120 after their turn. You then do 40 to put it up to 160, and then poison kicks in again and puts them up to 200. They are paralyzed, which means they can't get out of the active. They then get knocked out by poison after their turn. You take 2 prizes from KOing the Mega Rayquaza, and they have to put a new active Pokemon up to take a hit. If you can stream Mega Beedrill, and if you can stop them getting out of the active, you can take prize after prize after prize, and if you can make the maths work so that they get KO'd from poison going into your turn, you can win a lot of games with this. But there are 2 major problems, like I've said. One is you need to keep the energy flowing, and the second is you need to stop them getting out of paralysis. And the biggest issue here is that the way you keep the energy flowing is through trainer cards, and the way you stop them getting out of paralysis is by stopping trainer cards for both players. Now, there is one option that I don't think I can wholeheartedly recommend. It's Sceptile from Primal Clash. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. When was the last time someone told you about this card? Now, this card has got a really nice ability, which allows you to attach an energy card, a grass, from your hand to one of your Pokemon, and heal 30 damage. This is an extra energy attachment. Sounds like fun. Here's the thing. You would play this if you're playing Vileplume, so that you can't play item cards. Which means now you've got your Mega Pokemon, and you've got your Stage 2 Vileplume, and you've got your Stage 2 Sceptile. You're risking it getting very clunky. Now, do remember, ladies and gentlemen, that we have Forest of Giant Plants, which means all of these grass evolutions can happen whenever you feel like it. There is a huge amount of potential with Mega Beedrill. I'm just not sure, at least initially, we're going to be able to make an amazing deck, because I think every time you're going to be struggling with energy, or your opponent's going to get out of it. Now, what you could do is just play a speed Mega Beedrill deck, because you know what? Why wouldn't we do that? Because what you can go ahead and do here is just use your Mega Turbo, use your Max Elixir. You would probably want to play Puzzle of Time here so that you could reuse all of those cards. Play 2 Puzzle of Time at once and you can take any 2 cards from your discard pile back into your hand. And then just hope your opponent doesn't have something like a Switch. I like Mega Beedrill, but I am far more excited about regular Beedrill. Now, this is coming out in the Evolution set, which has not been released and will not be released until the 2nd of November. But as I told you about in a previous video, link in the description. If I forget, tell me in the comments, and then there will be a link. As I said in my previous video, some French cards got onto the market in North Carolina, and I just happen to know a lovely, Canadian chap, who at least lives in Canada now, but he is a native French speaker, so I asked him to translate it for me. So I have a translation from a chap I very much trust. Cheers, Remy. And I love this Beedrill. Now, once again, we've got Forest of Giant Plants, so you can go Weedle, Kakuna, Beedrill straight away. None of this messing about malarkey. And, I mean, there's one moderately useful attack, but it's not one that I'm absolutely loving. His first attack for 1 energy does 30 damage and poisons them. It's fine. If you need an attack, it's okay. But we are really looking here at Swarming Sting. 1 grass, 1 colourless, and this attack is insane. 40 damage for each Beedrill that you have in play. Now, as a side note, I've already been asked this a couple of times, so let me confirm. This does not include Beedrill EX. The name of Beedrill is Beedrill. The name of Beedrill EX is Beedrill EX. They have different names. That means you can play 4 Beedrill and 4 Beedrill EX, but only the 4 Beedrill will count in this attack, not the EX. 160 for 2 energy is good. Now, usually I'd be put off by the fact that it's a stage 2, but I'm not so put off by the fact it's a stage 2 here, because you know what? We can use Forest of Giant Plants. Oh wait, sorry, I didn't tell you everything. Because it's not just 160 for 2 energy, that would excite me. This is 160 damage to any of your opponent's Pokemon. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, 160 to the bench. And yeah, let's say you only get 3 Beedrills in play, you're only doing 120, oh wait, that's enough to KO a Shaymin. So let's look at the Beedrill Shaymin showdown for just a moment. That means that you get 3 Beedrill in play, anytime your opponent benches a Shaymin, you are just going to KO it for 2 prizes. Now your opponent can go, ha ha ha, joke's on you, I'm not benching any Shaymin. Brilliant. So what you're doing is slowing down your own setup. So you're not using Shaymin, so your deck now is designed to use Shaymin, so now your deck is much, much slower than it was before. Oh, and did I mention that while your setup is going nice and slowly, I'm hitting for 120, 160 to the active every turn. Oh yeah, and I'm doing it with non-EX Pokemon. That is redonk. Now the only real problem here is the double energy. And it had to be. For 1 energy, this would be just utterly stupid. Now, we did have the Great Encounters Beedrill, which was a really fun little card. And the thing with Great Encounters Beedrill was that it did a whole bunch of damage, 30 for every Beedrill in play, for 1 energy. However, it was only up to 120, and it could only hit the active. This is up to 160, and it can hit the bench. It couldn't be for 1 energy. So what we need to do is we need to go ahead and find a way to mitigate this 2 energy attachment. And there's a few. So first of all, one option is just to play other Pokemon. To not worry about accelerating energy and just to take a couple of turns. So one option here is Talonflame. Now this is a new Talonflame from Steam Siege. You get to play it as your starting Pokemon if it's in your opening hand. It's got free retreat and 130 HP, which is very nice. And if you want to put an energy on it, although that will slow down your Beedrills by a turn, you can search your deck for any 2 cards. Maybe you don't need to use it, but it's still useful if you do. You can use other grass Pokemon as alternate attackers. Now, this video is going to be long enough without going into them, so what I'm going to say is my next video is going to deal with grass Pokemon. So, any alternate attackers you may wish to play for grass, just check out that video to save this video getting sillily long. But I'm not a huge fan of other attackers here. I want to set up Beedrill, so your other option is just to play defense. And there's a few things you can do. You can just play Carbink. Carbink sits in the active, and Carbink cannot be attacked by EXs. Now, against non-EX decks, he's giving up a prize, but against EX decks, he sits there, and the EX can't hurt him. You could play, for instance, Wobbuffet, so that neither player can then use abilities, except on Psychic Pokemon. So that means your opponent can't use things like Shaymin. They're massively slowed down, giving you time to build up your Beedrills, get some energy in play. Or you could play something like, because you're playing Forest of Giant Plants anyway, you can play Servine. You evolve up, flip a coin, If heads, your opponent's active Pokemon is paralyzed, which means that they may well end up having to give you a turn if they can't get out the active. See where I'm going with this, ladies and gentlemen? Lots of fun to be had. Now, your other option, of course, is just to accelerate energy. Now, you can use Max Elixir here, but you're going to have to play something like 12 basic energy to have a good chance of hitting it. And when you're playing stage 2 lines and you're playing kind of a 4-4-4 Beedrill, you might not have the space to run all of them. You can play EXP Share. Now, I know this is a card I've been mentioning in a lot of my videos, but you know what, ladies and gentlemen? This card is now insane. With both Xerosic and Startling Megaphone rotating out, they are not getting rid of your tools, which means EXP Share is amazing. One Beedrill goes down, one of his energy goes onto a Beedrill on the bench with EXP Share. Now you attach one energy and you've got a second Beedrill ready to go. Do not sleep on EXP Share. I know the price for cards like Max Elixir has been going up very steadily now the rotation has hit. EXP Share, if it hasn't been going up, it really should. This card is about to get very, very good. And again, you can use Sceptile to accelerate energy, but it's just clunky. Do you want to be playing a Stage 2 Sceptile with your Stage 2 Beedrill? Personally, I kind of don't. Now, you could argue that 160 is not quite enough, as most EXs have 170 or 180 HP. Well, that's fine. Might I introduce you to Ariados? He's a Stage 1, he's Grass, so you can evolve him up with Forest of Giant Plants. He poisons your opponent. You do 160, the poison kicks in, KO. Now, I know this is only to the active. The 160 to the bench, you can't really increase that very much. So, don't worry about it, it's fine. KO things like Shaman on the bench. Most of the time, you're going to want to take out the attacker anyway, because if you just take out the bench, then your opponent's going to be taking out your Beedrills with their main attacker. The other thing you can use is Giovanni's, which puts up to 180 damage, and with Ariados puts you up to 190, which is really, really nice. As a side note, Grass is quite a nice type at the moment, because you get to KO Primal Groudon more easily. You get to take out things like Greninja decks very easily. And of course, Zygarde. Very nice indeed. Now, the other thing to remember when you're looking at this Beedrill is that, and there are other attackers you might wish to play, again, I'll go over them in my next video, but really, this deck, the way this works is to get your Beedrill out. Now, that Beedrill I told you about previously won the World Championships. And the reason it won the World Championships is because Steven Silvestro, I believe it was, just played a streamlined version of the deck. He played Luxray GL Level X. This was before Lysander and Pokemon Catcher. It was an ability that did the same thing. And his plan was, I'm just going to set up my Beedrills and smash, and I'm just going to keep recycling my Beedrills. And that's what you need to do with this deck. Now, when Karen is released, and it's not going to be coming out too far from now, Karen is a supporter that makes both players shuffle all their Pokemon from their discard back into their deck. That's going to be very good. We've lost Sacred Ash, unfortunately, but we still have Super Rod, so you can get free in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy back into your deck. Nice, of course, because sometimes you will need more grass energy, although hopefully EXP Share will be saving you. We've got Revitalizer. Search your discard pile for 2 grass Pokemon, put them in your hand. Now we've got Forest of Giant Plants as well. This is very nice indeed. And once again, just like with Mega Beedrill, I'm a fan of Puzzle of Time here. I don't think Puzzle of Time is a card to go in every deck, but I think sometimes there are cards you need to reuse so much that Puzzle of Time becomes a really important part of the deck. I could see that with this Beedrill deck, purely because you need the recovery, you need Revitalizer, Forest of Giant Plants, you need to win the Stadium War here, and Super Rod and Karen and cards like that. So, that, ladies and gentlemen, is the 2 new Beedrills. I really, really like them. Like I've said, Mega Beedrill EX, there is an issue in terms of having to discard the energy, bit of a problem. but getting KOs going into your turn is just too tasty, as is the auto paralysis. As for the regular Beedrill, he is one of my favourite cards I've seen in a while, and you can bet I will be making and testing decks with him. I will of course share my knowledge of testing on this channel because I'm nice like that. Both of these decks, I haven't told you much about alternate attackers, so let me be clear on this. Both of these Pokemon are very good, and when you get very good Pokemon, streamlined decks are good. You can play other attackers, you can tech for matchups, but remember that consistent decks win a lot. Now you know the deal, ladies and gentlemen, there's a comment section. What cards would you play with either of these Beedrills? Is there anything you'd like to say, anything you'd like to ask? To be frank, that is what the comment section is there for. Not to mention, of course, the subscribe button. Click it, go on. And of course, get a friend to subscribe on your behalf. Same deal with the like button. Click that bad boy, make me happy. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy. And if you haven't, you should. And of course, by far the most important thing, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.